Hey, welcome back. Or if this is your first time, welcome to it. Today I've got a little chaparral, nothing special. I'm going to be working on showing you how to get rid of swirl marks, holograms, after you've compounded with maybe a heavy cut or a medium cut compound, coming back over it with a foam pad and light compound. Yay! And it's not all that bad. This boat was purchased, I believe, in 2015, and he's had it for a couple years. You can see he's got a lot of water spots. There are a couple places where a fender has been rubbing. There's just typical, normal, boat life stuff in here. And as you get forward, it starts to shine up a little bit more, and you can start to see that pattern down here in that stuff that's on the ground. So I'm over here on this side in the shade. I've obviously brought a couple spotlights specifically to help me work my way through this. If, however, you have something like gravel or chain link fence in the back that you can use as kind of a test to see how well you're doing, what type of sharp reflection you're able to get, that always helps. If you've got water spots and stuff like this, you're going to want to start compounding. I mean, actually, I'll tell you what, to be safe, go out and buy one of those water spot removal sprays. Most of them don't work. You're going to get frustrated. I've been frustrated, so I just don't use them anymore. I go straight to compound. But again, I've been doing this for almost 20 years, so I'm kind of jaded about the whole, oh, this is a cool product and it works just for this one thing. And then I get to that one thing and it doesn't work. Then I just have this bottle of crap sitting in my truck for 10 years until I find somebody to give it to. Anyway, this is the reflection that starting off I had. Not terrible, just it is what it is. You guys have seen boats. And then, of course, with a little bit of heavy cut, a little bit of perfected EXAC, and good cleaning, and some Fire Glaze Plus, you're able to get something that looks kind of nice. And it brings the boat back to where it should be, is all I'm trying to do. And the nice thing with Fire Glaze Plus is when you touch it, you don't leave fingerprints behind, because it's not a waxy, oily thing. It's bonded to the surface, so it's not interfering with your fingers all that much. Very easy to clean, resists UV and stains quite easily. And this is kind of what I'm talking about with this pattern. You see how you can see it in the ground reflection here. Using this helps you get a sharper and sharper and sharper reflection each time you move the buffer back and forth, so that you can see a difference. Because if it was just gravel, your eyes have a hard time kind of picking that up. Another reason that I use the little floodlights, because on this side, I'm not going to have all that much in the way of light. So I'll be fooling myself quite a bit as I go through the compound steps if I don't have a bright source of light to gauge how aggressive I'm being with the compound. All right, that seems like an awful lot of talk, and I don't usually like to just talk. So thanks for hanging out. I hope you have or are having a really cool summer. If you have any questions, let me know. All right. Last couple of days, somebody asked me a question. They were going through some processes on their boat using some sanding and coming up with some different products that I don't use, and some pads that I don't use. Anyway, they got to a point where they got a decent reflection, they got some shine, and what they were dealing with, and I'll try to show you underneath this registration number, is some swirls and some holograms from the heavy cut. And you can use heavy cut without getting swirls, but if you know you're using another compound, it's okay to leave some swirls, especially if that other compound is pretty much designed to remove these. So he asked me if a foam pad would work, and if I thought that a light compound and a foam pad would work. And I suggested yes, it absolutely would. But instead of just telling you, I thought maybe I'd take the opportunity to show you. All right. So I will absolutely show you, and all the products that I use are in my description. Please take a look at that, and if you have any further questions, obviously ask me a question. So I'm going to use Perfected EXAC and a 3M single-sided waffly foam pad. This is a compounding pad. It's white. If you're on the 3M website or something like that, that's the one to get. Also, again, all the products are in the description, so there's really no need for you to have any questions. But if you do have questions, please hit me up in the comment section. All right, so I've got a little bit of this on here. I'm just going to kind of spread it out and then slowly start smoothing it in. And once I've gotten the milkiness, you know, kind of like right in here, it's a little whiter than it is here. Once it looks more like that and less like that, I'm gonna go ahead and use the lowest speed on the buffer, go flat, and just kind of work this. Okay, that wasn't flat, but you know. Now I'm going to do a cursory little wipe down just to see if I can get some of the compound residue off the surface that I'm going to be showing you, so that the light has something clean to reflect off of and you guys can judge me all you want. So give me just a second. But you notice I didn't put a lot of effort. I'm not pushing at all. I'm just holding the buffer on the side of the boat, and then the compound and the wheel did all the rest of the work. Now I am going to have a pretty bright light on this, so I'm trying to wipe a ton of this residue off. I could also, I suppose, grab some window cleaner since it's right there, but I don't have a clean enough rag to show you. In other words, the rag I've got's got a bunch of compounded wax on it, so it would just kind of smear. And there you go. So the answer is yes, it is possible, just with foam pad and a little bit of light compound. I've got a whole other side of this boat to do, and this side I've got to finish the foam pad. I got to clean this side, then I got to put on some wax. I'm going to be using Fire Glaze Plus. So I'll tell you what, when I'm done with this side of the hull, I'll come back, I'll put the Fire Glaze Plus on, I'll show you how that process goes. It's a really great product. If you haven't used it yet, you're insane. And if you have a brand new boat and you're not using it, you're absolutely wrong. All right, I'll catch you in a little bit. Peace. All right, I apologize about some wind noise. Can't do much about that. If you guys want to buy me one of those Rode wind noise reducers, feel free. If not, just deal with it like I do. All right, first thing I'm going to do is take my microfiber towels, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to wipe off some of the smegma just on the surface of this boat. Then I'm going to come back with some window cleaner, and I'm going to clean off all the oil from the gel coat with another microfiber towel. I won't make you suffer through all of that. I'll put you on some sort of time lapse so you can just see me stagger my way up along the boat. And when I'm done with that, I'll come back and we'll start putting on some Fire Glaze Plus. All right, see you in a bit. Again, this is just me taking off the majority of the compound smegma that was left behind from the compounding. Okay, so taking off all that compound residue with the other microfiber rags, that was just to get like 80–90% of what I had on there. Now what I'm going to do is take one of these really super soft microfiber towels. You notice there's no border on it, it's just a cut piece. This one's a little bit thinner than this one. This is a nice big thick one. I got this straight off of a Muppet. I feel a little bit bad, but I killed him ethically, so not too bad. All right, here's how I do it. You guys can choose your own path forward. I get her a little bit wet, and then I take the smaller of the rags and I clean up kind of like I buff. Start with the edges first, then I work to my middles, make sure to get around all your fittings, and I'll focus on the chaparral lettering in a little bit, but for right now I'm just going to focus on the black. Now once that's done, I take the clean super soft fluffy one, give it a little pass over, and you can feel with the dry one how smooth and effortlessly, sorry, words are hard, the microfiber just kind of slides over it. I mean, it feels like it's been waxed almost. Now, once I get all this done, you saw I had the little spotlight. You have to kind of go over this and make sure that you're happy with it. You don't have to. I mean, if you're thrilled with this, that's great, but to make sure that you got exactly what you wanted, you're going to want to take some flashlights, some bright lights, or sunlight, and inspect this and make sure that you're getting the reflection that you want, the color that you want, you didn't miss anything. Once that's done, then you can get to putting your wax on. All right, I'm gonna put you back on hyperlapse. You can actually fast forward for a little bit because this is really boring, but I'm just gonna do this for the rest of the boat. So chill out for a sec, I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I got my random orbital polisher. I'm gonna make sure before I get started that this is at the lowest speed setting. And I got a nice clean pad. I got my Fire Glaze. Stuff cost me $60 for 3 bottles of this, just in shipping. So if you're having a hard time with the shipping costs, so am I. Don't worry, you're not the only one. I'm gonna make this just kind of this back little corner. It also, I'll add, the Fire Glaze seems a little bit more gritty, although it's not. It's just little particles of stuff, and you really have to shake this stuff up. All right, so here I go. I'm gonna kind of spread this out a little bit, just touching on everything. Definitely going to get some down here, and then slow. Just I'm aware that for a section this size, that seemed like a lot of work. And you're right. Usually you just kind of put it on, let it dry, and then buff it off. With Fire Glaze, what you want to do is take all the little pieces and particles, jam them into the pores, and then smooth it out. Once that happens, you start to see that the wax generally, I'll just call it wax, the Fire Glaze generally isn't visible. I can see it where I'm standing. It's just got the lightest haze that you could possibly imagine. And then I also choose bookmarks, bookmarks. So for me, the Charlie, the C in Chaparral, that's one line. The next one will be the tip of the bird's nose on the end of the Chaparral emblem. And then I'll continue. I might mark little finger marks in the trailer just to tell me I stopped there, I stopped there, I stopped there. But either way, at this point, you just wipe it off. And that's it. Now, it might take longer than a traditional wax to put on and take off, especially longer to prepare the surface for what you're going to do with the Fire Glaze. Considering that this will last for 3 years, as long as you just keep it clean, put in the extra time. It's not going to kill you. And I think you'll appreciate it once it's all said and done. Now, I'm going to continue on down the rest of this boat. When I get to a section where I can show you a large flat panel without a bunch of contours, it's a little bit easier to see how this process goes. I will show it to you. Till then, hang out for a bit, have a beer if you want to. I want one. One more time, I'll do from right about here, and I'll get underneath our WN numbers. And you all have different letters and numbers for your state, TX, OR, whatever. We call them WN, you call them whatever you want. These numbers down to about here. So once again, I've shaken up the Fire Glaze, put a little bit on the old pad, nice soft one. Then I'm just going to kind of tap it around. And then nice and slow, work it in. Again, you want to work it until you can barely see it on the surface. After that, you can just take your microfiber rag, preferably a clean one. You can just go through the motions of wiping down your boat. And then whatever's left on the surface has been beaten into the pores of the gel coat. And it's got a nice level surface, so things don't like to stick to it. I find it kind of humorous sometimes if people are changing out the registration numbers, the orange sticker down here. If they have me wax their boat before they do that, and I'm the one who takes off the sticker, sometimes it's been known to happen where somebody contacts me and asks me what happened to the registration sticker. I don't usually have an answer, except for the fact that sometimes I've heard stories that Fire Glaze doesn't like things sticking to it. I've heard of duct tape and masking tape sliding off of a boat. I've seen masking tape slide off of a boat after Fire Glaze was applied. We've done the hull. Tape fell off. I've heard boatyards complain that after we do a boat, sometimes they can't get the masking up to do the whole work, the bottom work. So if you wanted to, you could take off your registration as a detailer, maybe not as an owner. And I'm talking about this little orange sticker right there. Sometimes, you know, every year they got to come off and be replaced. So if you wax this, and you pull this off and wax underneath there with Fire Glaze, you might find that the decal doesn't last very long, and it might fall off. So a good idea to do, less sarcastic, less fun, is to compound this, then put the decals on, then hit it with your wax or your Fire Glaze. That way you don't have things coming off randomly. All right, that's about it. I've got a little bit more to go in the rest of this, and then I got the other side to do, and I should be out of here hopefully in a couple hours, and then beer time. Anyway, if you guys have any questions, please hit me up in the comment section. I usually answer every question, and for no good reason. It's not like anyone's paying me to answer these questions. I'm just, you know, nothing else to do, and I'm a no-life. So if I wasn't playing with boats, it'd be, I don't know, hitting a golf ball, shooting a target, or driving excessively fast. One of the three. Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Hope you had a chance to catch up on something and you learned something, and maybe not. Maybe you just hang out and you just needed a break, and I feel your pain. Anyway, I'll talk to you later. Pieces. Damn, did that feel like 20 minutes? I guess it was 20 minutes. Anyway, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. Hit the like, subscribe, do all the things that help me out. Appreciate it.